A photograph surfaced 3 nights ago that nobody was supposed to see. Two of Turkey's most beloved stars, Elçin Sangu and Barış Arduç, sitting together in a dimly lit corner of an exclusive Istanbul restaurant, their hands almost touching across the table, their eyes locked in a way that made everyone who saw it stop breathing for just a moment. The image vanished within hours, scrubbed from social media by accounts that suddenly went dark, but not before thousands had already saved it, shared it, whispered about it. What you're about to discover goes far beyond a single photograph. This is a story about two people who captured the hearts of millions, who swore they were just friends, and who may have been hiding the truth all along. Let me take you back to where this all began, because to understand what's happening right now, you need to know how Elçin and Barış became the names on everyone's lips. Elçin Sangu emerged into Turkish entertainment like a force of nature, her presence on screen magnetic in ways that casting directors struggle to define. She didn't just act in roles, she inhabited them so completely that viewers forgot they were watching a performance. Her breakthrough came when she was cast in projects that showcased not just her beauty, which is undeniable, but her ability to convey complex emotions with the slightest change in expression. Directors who worked with her described something rare, a combination of technical skill and raw emotional authenticity that only appears once in a generation. Barış Arduç traveled a different path to stardom. He came from a background that gave him depth, an understanding of struggle that translated into every character he portrayed. When he looked into a camera, audiences saw someone real, someone who understood heartbreak and hope in equal measure. His rise through Turkish television was marked by roles that demanded vulnerability, and he delivered it without holding back. Industry insiders will tell you that Barış brought something to sets that changed the entire atmosphere, a professionalism mixed with genuine warmth that made everyone around him better at their craft. But here's where the story takes its first turn, and you need to pay attention to this detail because it matters. When Elçin and Barış were first cast together in a project that would change both their lives, they had never met before the initial table read. Sources who were in that room described an energy that was immediately apparent to everyone present. The way they responded to each other's line readings, how they instinctively found the rhythm of their characters' relationship, it created a silence in the room as other cast members and producers recognized they were witnessing something uncommon. Their first project together became a cultural phenomenon in Turkey and beyond. Viewership numbers shattered expectations week after week. Social media exploded with fan accounts dedicated to their on-screen chemistry. What made their pairing so compelling wasn't just their individual talents, it was the way they seemed to disappear into each other's performances, creating moments that felt stolen from real life rather than scripted. Fans began shipping them with an intensity that both stars publicly laughed off in interviews, always maintaining that their connection was purely professional, built on mutual respect and shared dedication to their craft. Now, I want you to consider something that will change how you see everything that came after. During the filming of their series, crew members began noticing patterns. Elçin and Barış would arrive on set separately, always careful to maintain appropriate distance in public areas, but those who worked late-night shoots reported seeing them in deep conversation long after everyone else had left, sitting in corners of the set, talking with an intimacy that went beyond rehearsing lines. One lighting technician, who has since left the production and spoke on condition of anonymity, described finding them on an empty soundstage at 2 a.m, not rehearsing, not running lines, just talking. And the way they jumped apart when they heard footsteps suggested this was a private moment that wasn't meant to be witnessed. The press tours for their show intensified the speculation. Entertainment journalists who have covered Turkish celebrities for decades noticed something in their interviews together. The way Barış would watch Elçin when she spoke, not with professional courtesy, but with absolute focus, as if every word she said mattered in a personal way. The way Elçin's entire demeanor would shift when Barış entered a room, a light coming into her expression that wasn't there moments before. These are the tiny details that professionals notice, the ones that can't be faked no matter how good an actor you are, because they happen in the unguarded moments between questions, in the split seconds when they think the camera isn't focused on them. During this same period, both Elçin and Barış were linked to other people in the press. Elçin was photographed at events with a businessman whose family had connections throughout Istanbul's elite circles. Barış was spotted multiple times with an actress from a rival network. The tabloids ran these stories with enthusiasm, but fans who studied the photographs with obsessive detail noticed something telling. In every single photo, whether Elçin was with her rumored boyfriend or Barış with his supposed girlfriend, their smiles never quite reached their eyes. There was a performative quality to these public appearances that felt almost obligatory, as if they were going through motions expected of them rather than genuine romantic connection. Then came the award ceremony that everyone in Turkey was watching. This is crucial to understanding the timeline of what happened next. Elçin and Barış were both nominated in major categories. They arrived separately, walked the red carpet separately, sat in different sections of the venue. Professional, appropriate, exactly what would be expected. But when Barış's name was called as the winner in his category, cameras caught Elçin's reaction for just a fraction of a second before she composed herself. It wasn't the polite applause of a colleague. It was pure, unfiltered joy and pride, the kind of reaction you have when someone you deeply care about achieves something meaningful. Video analysts later pointed out that tears appeared in her eyes before she blinked them away, a detail that sent the rumor mills into overdrive. Here's what happened in the months that followed, and this is where we have to separate what we know for certain from what sources claim. Both stars completed their contracted projects together and then, almost simultaneously, announced they were taking extended breaks from acting. Elçin stated she wanted to focus on personal growth and travel. Barış mentioned needing time to explore other creative interests and spend time with family. On the surface, these seemed like reasonable decisions from successful actors who had been working non-stop for years. But the timing struck industry watchers as suspicious. They finished their final scene together on a Friday afternoon in late spring. By the following Tuesday, both had released statements about their breaks. That level of coordination doesn't happen by accident. What the public didn't know, what only emerged through careful piecing together of information from multiple sources, is that during those months away from the spotlight, Elçin and Barış were spotted in locations that seemed random until you mapped them out. A fan claimed to see Elçin in a small coastal town known for its privacy, a place where Istanbul's elite go to escape attention. 3 days later, another source reported seeing Barış in that same town, walking along the beach early in the morning. A photographer who happened to be vacationing in Cappadocia swears he saw them both at a boutique hotel, though by the time he retrieved his camera, they had disappeared. None of these sightings could be confirmed with photographic evidence, which only added to the mystery. Were these merely coincidences, or were two of Turkey's biggest stars coordinating secret meetings away from the prying eyes of media? The social media activity during this period tells its own story if you know how to read it. Both Elçin and Barış would occasionally post photos from their respective locations, always alone, always carefully cropped to show only themselves and scenery. But fans with too much time and impressive detective skills began noticing elements in the backgrounds of these photos that matched. A distinctive tile pattern visible in one of Elçin's photos matched the design of a hotel that Barış had been rumored to visit. Cloud formations and lighting in their photos, posted days apart, suggested they were taken from locations very near each other, possibly on the same day. This is speculation, to be clear, pattern recognition by devoted fans that could be confirmation bias, but the accumulation of these small details created a narrative that became impossible to ignore. When they both returned to public life, something had shifted. Entertainment reporters who had followed their careers for years noticed it immediately. In interviews, they no longer mentioned each other with the easy familiarity they once had. When asked about potentially working together again, responses became carefully neutral, almost scripted in their blandness. This stood in stark contrast to their previous enthusiasm about their partnership. One journalist who has covered Turkish entertainment for 2 decades told me off the record that this kind of overcorrection, this deliberate creation of distance, usually indicates the opposite of what it's meant to convey. When two people who were once comfortable together suddenly become uncomfortable even discussing each other, it often means something significant happened that they're working very hard to hide. Their separate projects after the break showed interesting choices in the roles they selected. Elçin chose a character dealing with a secret relationship that society wouldn't accept, a woman torn between public expectations and private desires. Barış signed onto a film about a man struggling with a love he couldn't openly acknowledge. These could be complete coincidences, actors drawn to complex emotional material that challenges them. Or, and this is where we enter the territory of reading between lines, these could be ways of processing real experiences through the safe distance of fiction, a common practice among artists dealing with situations they cannot publicly address. Now we arrive at the event that brought everything back into sharp focus, the photograph I mentioned at the beginning. 3 nights ago, in a restaurant in Istanbul known for its discretion, known as the place where Turkey's elite go when they don't want to be seen, Elçin and Barış were photographed together. The image showed them at a corner table, the restaurant nearly empty around them, engaged in what appeared to be an intense conversation. The photo was grainy, taken from a distance, likely on a phone by someone who recognized them and couldn't resist capturing the moment. What made this photograph different from any professional shot or posed picture was the body language. These weren't two colleagues having a business dinner. The lean of their bodies toward each other, the way their hands rested on the table with fingers almost touching, the expression on both their faces that mixed longing and sadness in equal measure. This was intimate in a way that no amount of professional acting could fake in a moment they didn't know was being captured. The photograph appeared on a gossip account with a relatively small following. Within 30 minutes, it had been screenshotted and shared thousands of times. Within 2 hours, it was the top trending topic in Turkey. And then, something unusual happened. The original account deleted the post. Then the account itself disappeared entirely. Other accounts that had shared the image began removing it. By morning, finding the photograph online had become nearly impossible, though thousands had already saved copies. This kind of coordinated removal suggests legal pressure, publicists, and lawyers working overnight to contain damage, which raises an obvious question. If this was truly an innocent dinner between former colleagues, why the extreme reaction to suppress the image? Let me share with you what we know about the aftermath, because this is still unfolding in real time. Both Elçin's and Barış's representatives released statements within hours of each other, always a sign of coordinated crisis management. The statements were nearly identical in tone, acknowledging that the two had met for dinner to discuss a potential future professional collaboration, emphasizing their friendship and mutual respect, firmly denying any romantic involvement. These statements hit all the expected notes, professional and carefully worded, the kind of response publicists craft to shut down speculation without adding fuel to fires. But here's the detail that those statements couldn't address. Multiple sources from the restaurant, staff members who have since spoken anonymously, reported that Elçin appeared to have been crying at some point during the dinner. One waiter described bringing their dessert course and noticing her eyes were red, her makeup slightly smudged, while Barış looked visibly distressed, his usual composed demeanor cracked. This brings us to the questions that everyone is asking and that need to be addressed with honesty about what we can and cannot know. Are Elçin Sangu and Barış Arduç in a romantic relationship? The truth is, we don't have definitive proof. What we have is a pattern of behavior, a collection of moments and sightings and reactions that, when assembled together, suggest something deeper than professional collaboration. We have the testimony of people who have worked with them, who have observed them in unguarded moments, who have noticed things that cameras don't catch. We have their own choices, the roles they select, the way they navigate questions about each other, the coordinated nature of their public statements. What we also have to acknowledge is the immense pressure that comes with being public figures in Turkey, where traditional values and modern celebrity culture create complicated expectations. Relationships between co-stars are often viewed with skepticism, seen as publicity stunts or as unprofessional. Both Elçin and Barış have carefully cultivated images as serious actors dedicated to their craft. A confirmed relationship, especially if it began during their work together, could be seen as diminishing their professional accomplishments, reducing their partnership to mere romantic attraction rather than artistic chemistry. This context matters when we consider why they might choose to keep any relationship private, or why they might struggle with feelings that complicate both their personal lives and public images. There's another layer to consider here, one that speaks to the human element of this entire situation. Imagine being in their position. You connect with someone in a way that feels rare and genuine, but that connection happens in the most public circumstances imaginable. Every glance is analyzed, every interaction scrutinized, every moment together becomes content for millions of strangers to dissect. The pressure of that attention could destroy something fragile before it has a chance to grow. Perhaps what we're witnessing isn't a scandal or a secret romance in the traditional sense, but two people trying to figure out their feelings away from the impossible glare of constant observation. Maybe those secret dinners and coordinated travel weren't about hiding a relationship, but about creating space to understand what they mean to each other without the weight of public expectation crushing the possibility before they even fully understand it themselves. Let's talk about what happens next, because this story is far from over. Both Elçin and Barış have projects scheduled for release in the coming months. Press tours will be unavoidable. Questions about each other will certainly be asked, no matter how many times their representatives request those topics be avoided. Award ceremonies and industry events will likely put them in the same rooms, possibly even seated near each other. How they navigate these situations will tell us more than any statement ever could. Will they maintain the careful distance they've tried to establish in recent months, or will we see cracks in that facade, moments where the genuine connection everyone has observed breaks through the professional veneer? The fan communities surrounding both stars have divided into factions. Some believe absolutely that Elçin and Barış are together and deserve privacy to navigate their relationship without interference. Others insist this is all overblown speculation, that we're seeing patterns that don't exist, projecting romance onto a friendship because we want the fairy tale of on-screen chemistry translating to real life. Both perspectives have validity. We want to believe in love stories, especially when the people involved seem genuinely connected. But we also have to respect that what we see as outside observers is incomplete, filtered through media and our own desires for narrative satisfaction. What cannot be denied, regardless of the true nature of their relationship, is that Elçin Sangu and Barış Arduç created something special together on screen. Their work touched millions of people, created moments of genuine emotion and connection that transcended language and culture. That artistic achievement exists independent of their personal lives. Whether they are secretly together, whether they struggled with feelings they couldn't act on, whether they are simply friends who share deep mutual respect, none of that diminishes what they built as creative partners. In fact, knowing that their connection had real depth, whatever form that depth takes, only makes their work more impressive. They channeled something authentic into performances that will outlast any gossip or speculation about their personal lives. Here's what I believe, and I'm speaking now not as a journalist assembling facts, but as someone who has watched their journey and seen the evidence of something real. I think Elçin and Barış found in each other a connection that surprised them both. I think that connection complicated their lives in ways they didn't anticipate and perhaps still don't fully know how to handle. I think they care about each other deeply, whether that care is romantic love, profound friendship, or something in between that doesn't fit neat categories. I think they have struggled with the impossibility of being truly private while living truly public lives. And I think that photograph from 3 nights ago captured a moment of honest emotion between two people trying to figure out something difficult. A moment that wasn't meant for any of us to see, but that reveals more truth than 1,000 posed red carpet photos ever could. The real story here isn't about scandal or secrets in the salacious sense. It's about the cost of fame, about how difficult it becomes to have authentic human experiences when every moment is potential content. It's about two extraordinarily talented people who found something meaningful in each other and have had to navigate that meaning under impossible circumstances. It's about the difference between the personas celebrities present and the complicated humans they actually are. Whatever the precise truth of their relationship, Elçin and Barış deserve the space to live their lives, make their choices, and figure out their feelings without harassment or invasion. They owe us great performances, which they have consistently delivered. They don't owe us access to their private emotional landscapes. As this story continues to unfold, and it will continue because that's the nature of celebrity and public fascination, I hope we can hold space for nuance. We can be curious without being invasive. We can discuss what we observe without claiming to know what we cannot know. We can hope for their happiness, whatever form that happiness takes, whether together or apart. The photograph may disappear from the internet, but the questions it raised will linger. Sometimes the most compelling stories are the ones without clear endings, the ones that remind us that real life is messier and more complex than any script. What do you think is really happening between Elçin Sangu and Barış Arduç? Have we witnessed a love story unfolding in fragments and stolen moments, or are we reading significance into coincidence? Drop your thoughts in the comments. If this story fascinated you, hit that subscribe button because we'll be following every development as it happens. Share this video with anyone who has followed their journey and wants to understand the full picture. The truth, whatever it turns out to be, is out there in those unguarded moments, those deleted photographs, those carefully worded denials that somehow reveal more than they conceal. And maybe that's exactly how it should be, some mysteries remaining mysterious, some private moments staying private, some connections too precious to be fully exposed to public consumption. Thank you for watching, and remember that behind every headline is a human story far more complicated than we usually get to see.